Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel for my third day in a row of Payday 3 news. I'm getting back into the groove here, I'm quite enjoying this. But Starbreeze have just given us an overview of the patch notes for Update 2, which at this point I think it's safe to say is coming next week. They keep stressing end of November, and it's the 1st of December next Friday, so I'm assuming it's coming next week now, and it's presumably already in certification, judging from how Liz was talking about it in today's stream. So what I've got is, you can see on here, I took a whole bunch of screenshots during the stream, the presentation, because it's not actually been published just on its own yet at the time of recording, and I want to get this video done as fast as possible. So you will see Liz's head blocking a couple of bits, but I'll try to read through and fill in any gaps if necessary. And that's also why there's a viewer count down there, because I have a wider phone, which basically means that it has black bits on and you can see a viewer count there. So basically just ignore that. But we're going to go through all the slides of the PowerPoint. I have also taken, get ready for a flashbang, recap notes from last week's streams that I didn't talk about, and also some notes from today's stream. So I'm going to go through the presentation first, and then I'm going to go through those notes. There'll be time markers on the video as well, so you can just skip to whatever you want if you want to read things in a different order. But I think this is the most important thing. I want to leave with the presentation, so let's do that. They split it into 5 different sections, and they started off by talking about the new free content and focused on Cook-Off and Turbid Station. As we talked about yesterday, Turbid is the rename of Murky Station because Murky Water is gone as of Payday 3's story. They don't operate anymore, so they're not relevant. These locations, I believe they said, are going to be actually in New York. They just happen to look the same as they do in Payday 2. So it's more of a present-day recreation rather than a flashback, which is pretty much the same way that every Legacy heist worked from Payday the Heist to Payday 2. I believe the only exception was No Mercy. That was a flashback. I don't think anything else was. In general, they want to recreate the location and gameplay experience, but they've changed the context and the framework for Payday 3 and made tweaks to improve the gameplay so that it works with Payday 3's features, basically, is the gist of that. So you can see a couple of bits of footage there, but also, or screens I should say, but also they go into more detail in the heists themselves and also offer some comparison shots between Payday 2 and 3, which, side note, if you guys would like to see me do some videos comparing how the heists look in Payday 2 to Payday 3, let me know. I could always cook those up when the update comes out. But for Cook-Off, they give you a bit of a backstory. An old brand of meth known for its purity has returned to the market. Sounds a bit Breaking Bad-esque. The supply chain has been tracked to a lab upstate, and the Payday gang will need to raid the lab, presumably so they can sell the drugs themselves. The lab is under heavy guard, and these raids never, I don't know, stop. Who knows? Fill in the gaps. It's like playing a fun game with your friends. But you've got some some details here on the first heist. They did these slides in the wrong order. We saw this again. And they also talked about some features for Cook-Off. There is a larger map, so it fits better with Payday 3's movements, so it actually is bigger. And as you'll see in a minute, I think the actual house is wider than it was in Payday 2. There's tactical scaffolding. I touched on this in the dev update video. There's more scaffolding around the outside of the building than there used to be. There's a new area, this garage you can see here, which you can access from underneath the building, but also you can see it's where there was normally a shutter in Payday 2 and the truck was parked outside with ingredients in. That door's open and the garage is there now. There is a 19 bag cap, which did cause a bit of an uproar in the live chat, but there are some notes to explain why there's a 19 bag cap and actually some interesting features to how the bags are going to work that I think compensate for it. I think it honestly is better than it sounds, but we'll get to that later. On top of that, they've also talked about influence loot value that combines the 19 bag cap. We'll get into it later, but basically the gist ahead of time is that if you leave a bag to cook for longer after it's ready, you'll get extra value. You leave it too long, it'll end up losing value. So there's a bit more interactivity to the loot this time around, which I really like. Moving on to some comparison shots, you can see here, as I said, the house looks wider. At least in my opinion, it seems like it's a much wider build of the house, and you can see there's a bit of difference in the atmosphere and the vibe of the setting of the location around the house. Not massive changes, but just some overall tweaks here and there. Moving on then, you got some interior shots. So you can see it looks like the table is a little bit lower, I think, in this heist in Payday 3. And also the biggest improvement for me, the lighting. I think that's a huge, huge change. Moving on then, we look at Turbid Station, which, as I said yesterday, it really sounds like turd. I really wish they could have come up with a better name for it, but whatever. It's a rename from Murky Station, which just says, you know, it's a reimagining of Murky Station where the gang is stealing satellite prototypes located in a rail yard. The loot needs to be stolen without getting caught, but there is reward that makes it worth the effort. The heist is adapted to be better with Payday 3's movement set, allowing you to complete the heist with more variety. So it is completely still stealth only, and on top of that, it's going to flow more with Payday 3's movement and stealth mechanics. I mean, that shot alone looks really good, in my opinion. They also say there's accessible train car roofs now. You can see there's planks to go across on the roofs. I did think that was possibly teased in the dev update. That is true. And I'm guessing that means you can get into the train car through the roof. Does it mean the roofs are accessible from above, or you can get through the roof of the train car? Maybe both, hopefully both. But it has been adapted to Payday 3's movement and stealth mechanics. We've then got some comparison shots. So this is the overview of the map. You can see it's a bit wider, the overview section, this layout up here compared to here. And then Payday 3, instead of just having holes in the fence you can cut, there's actually an open gateway you can go through here. So some changes there of note. In the inside, I don't think anything really has changed. There may be some pipe layouts, but that section looks pretty much the same. But again, it seems like possibly the interior here is wider. It feels like they've made things a bit bigger, so it's not quite as claustrophobic in Payday 3, which, you know, cool. Especially with field of view turned up to max, it'll feel even bigger. Next thing, new cosmetics. There is an under wraps mask, which Andreas noted there are some loose bits of bandage. They will flop in the air with Unreal Engine 5, so you'll see them kind of moving around. And there's also the Lycan Compact 7 preset weapon. These will be talked about more in the patch notes, but I will just tell you right now, they have confirmed the under wraps mask will cost 10 C-stacks, and the Compact 7 preset weapon will cost 25. Very cheap, very good prices. I hope this is a pattern they're setting for the future, because having new things being added in that you can purchase relatively easily is important, I think, in this game. Moving on, then they talk about the skill line. Now, I have broken down the transporter skill line before, so I don't want to sit here and read through all of it again. It is on screen for you to read if you haven't caught up with previous videos of mine. The only things I will mention are the things that Liz's head is blocking. Beast of Burden, as long as you have rush, carrying objects or bodies will not incur any movement speed penalties. So that's the important thing there. And also brutal carry, as long as you have grit, any civilian or employee who sees you carrying a body will immediately become intimidated. That's what that says. So if you need to pause the rest, feel free, but there's all the gist of everything in transporter. Basically, move faster while carrying bags, carry 2 bags at once, and possibly carrying also some extra deployables with deep pockets. So it's a little bit of everything here for more movement, more versatility in your playstyle, which looks really, really good. Moving on, they also talk about animation interactions. You can watch my video yesterday and the day before to talk about those. I had 2 different videos on each of those to showcase you some of these animations, so go and watch those if you want to see them in more depth. But there's about 20 new first-person animations coming in this update, and as I'll talk about later, more are going to be coming afterwards. On top of that, they also talk about weapon inspecting, just one of these forms of animations, also already talked about that. But then here's the big thing, the challenge system. This is something we didn't have much information on until now, because challenges and progression are getting some very notable changes in this update. Now, recommended challenges, the system is going to work as such. On the main menu of Payday 3, you'll get 3 recommended challenges based on what you've done so far, basically suggesting these are things you may want to do next. But also, once you go in heist selection, you'll get given 3 unique challenges for each of the heists. So if you want more heist-specific challenges, just go into the heist selection screen, hover over the heist, and it'll throw 3 up that you can do on this heist that will be ones that are maybe easier to complete, or ones based on your playstyle. So you will get versatility here. If you want to see some general ones, that's the main menu. More specific ones, heist selection screen. Very, very, very good for that. But for infamy points, here is the kicker. Infamy points are now going to be awarded for heist completion, but for 3 different things. You will get them for just completing a heist. You'll get extra points for completing the heist without raising the alarm, so in stealth. So, you know, the challenges weren't very good at explaining this. It's not about the escape van leaving. It's as soon as the alarm goes off, that's the breaking point. So completing it without the alarm going off gets you more points, and also completing the heist by securing all bags will get you more infamy points. The amount of points is not disclosed, but I'm getting the vibe that hopefully it'll be based on the time the heist takes and also what loot is available, but we will see when that comes out. It notes on here, the amount of infamy points you get for each of these 3 factors will depend on which heist you're playing and on which difficulty. Oh, that literally answers my question. Fantastic, there you go. So I'm guessing it will be based on time. So maybe the heists that are quicker to complete will give you fewer points, the ones that are longer to complete give you more, whatever it may be. These payouts are added up together and aren't mutually exclusive, which means that if you complete a heist without raising the alarm, you'll get points for completion and for finishing in stealth, so you'll get them combined. So it won't be, oh, we're going to give you points based on one of these things. If you do all 3 of these things, do the heist, in stealth, all bags, you'll get the maximum payout possible. So obviously stealth can take longer, so it will hopefully balance with loud. So completing it by securing all bags in loud may be quicker than doing it in stealth, and so the infamy points would balance out, basically. You get extra points because it takes you longer to do stealth. But this is exactly what I wanted them to do for infamy points. I didn't want it to just be, complete a heist, here's 10 points. This is an in-depth system that I'm hoping will work just as good in execution as it's sounding on paper. There's also going to be a prestige system. This is all in this update. This is they really have cooked. I'm honestly, again, the cynic in me is wishing some of this stuff was here at launch, but whatever, we're getting it now. But renown levels are basically the new version of prestige, the new infamy system. So once you hit level 150, every 2,000 infamy points you get will give you 1 renown level. At base, there are 1,188 renown levels, and they say there's a random reward per level, but they said they've only got about 15 to 20 rewards right now, and they'll add more later on. So that's obviously not every level in the game, but they're going to build on that. But I think the idea here is probably a way to let you keep progressing your level, because they did say they were going to increase the level cap at some point. So if they, for instance, increase it to 160 for your infamy, you'll still probably reserve your renown points. That won't change. You'll work back up to level 160, then carry on with your renown. So there's hopefully going to be constant progression no matter what level you are, which is exactly what I hope the game would have. So I'm very, very, very happy to see that. Moving on from there, they also noted finally some other changes that are worth mentioning. You can see it's the last slide because I can't flick along now. They noted a lobby chat is coming, but only to PC for now, that being because it's harder to do on console. And honestly, in the defense for this one, as someone who plays on console, I never use chat on console anyway. Unless you've got a keyboard and mouse plugged in, you have to use an Xbox controller to fiddle along and press each key. You are not going to do that. So in this one instance, I will forgive them for saying we put it on PC first because it's easier. Fair enough. Just don't let this be a precedent for the future, because then I will come down on them like a ton of bricks. They've also said they rebalanced some skills. Didn't go into much details there, but I'm sure we'll see when the full patch notes come out. You'll be able to mute the heist brief VO, so if you don't want to hear Shade saying, let's get you back in the saddle anymore, you can mute that. And finally, they said there's a 300% health boost for AI crew. Now, the mathematics student in me basically wants to clarify that provided they have worded this as they've meant to, that's 4 times the health. I know it says 300%, but if it's a 100% boost, that means you've doubled it. 200% boost means you've tripled it. 300% boost means you've quadrupled it. If it was 300% compared to original, it'd be triple. So I think from the way they're wording it, they have quadrupled the health of AI teammates, which is very, very good. It was a big problem they had, so I'm very glad to see that's been done. But that's the overall summary of the content in next week, fingers crossed, update. So now, flashbang again, I'm going to go back and recap some very important notes quickly and get this video out as soon as possible. So here's some things to recap from the previous 3 streams that I didn't do videos on. So they've also stressed that the dev updates they release now will be roughly a month before the update drops. They want to make sure there's no longer than a month's wait in between them. Very good cadence for updates, which means we hopefully will see one maybe next month. I don't know, we'll find out. Legacy heists are not flashbacks, I've talked about it already, but for the legacy heist, Locke will set up the job and Shade will be the operator. We established that yesterday, but it's important to reinforce it. The second half of the bug fixing patch that was split, and it was all confusing as to how it was working, is within this update. That's why there's 200 plus bug fixes. This is the last big first push of bug fixes in this update to fix a lot of the launch problems. Weapon inspection you can get by using the communication wheel, so the thing where you get them to swear, that kind of thing. You'll see weapon inspection in there. Cook-off is loud only, turbid station stealth only. I think that speaks for itself, but it's important to stress. They have mentioned offline mode is still on the table, and there are some similarities here between that stream and this one, because Andreas clarified in today's stream, he stresses that on the table is not a no, it either means it's being planned or is under consideration, and they will tell us if the no becomes definitive. So I'm trusting them on that to keep that word, because we still need an offline mode. I'm desperate for it. It's got to happen at some point or another. On top of that, it said that Joy and Locke will not be in cutscenes for the upcoming Legacy heists, or anyone basically, because there won't be these. Andreas confirmed they won't. So Locke and Joy could pop up, because they're talking about their relationship together, could pop up in future cutscenes if Ian ties into the current story, but for Legacy, you won't get any cutscenes. There are roughly 20 new animations in the patch, as I talked about. Joachim, who is one of the lead animators in Payday 3, teases that more will come after this, but they stay secret for now. Animations on throwing bags into vans and helicopters is something he mentioned, though, is not currently working. They're trying to get it to fix, but it's one of the harder things to code. They've said there will be no animations for things like safe cracking or lockpicking minigames, because it would be distracting to see the actual animation in the background of you doing the minigame, they think. I get it. I wouldn't have minded seeing it still, but fair enough. But they did say that there will be an animation for lockpicking handcuffs. If you're getting a teammate out of their cuffs, you'll see an animation for that. Didn't mean to clap there, but whatever. You'll see an animation for that basically because you don't have a minigame, you're just unpicking the cuffs. There will be animations for cooking meths, but not necessarily at release. I don't know what meths are. Why is my English not working today? You're cooking the meths, but yeah, the animations are probably not in this update because they started working on that once the update was done for like actually adding cook-off as a heist. So they'll come, but not necessarily in this next update. They then also interestingly talked about why the stuff like animations was not in the game at launch, and they gave an explanation about it being time and money and the animations not being super important, so it was kind of killing off the things that they wanted to do but didn't have time for while they were focusing on the main game, which I understand. I still think it maybe would have benefited Payday 3 to wait a few months, add these things in and make it a better experience at launch. So I see both sides of the coin there. Legs in Payday 3, if you like looking at your legs, they may do it at some point like they did in Overkill's The Walking Dead, so keep asking if you want to be able to look down and see your legs. Seeing animation in third person would need to be done all over again and is harder to code, it's more complex, they talked about. So that is not currently a priority, but if people ask, that might happen. Generic weapon inspects for now are being applied, so basically the way you inspect a gun will be very similar between any gun in the game, but again, much like adding new animations down the line, they're hopefully going to make things more unique for weapon classes over time, and on top of that, then hopefully go gun specific. So right now it'll be a very broad, here's my gun, look at this, ooh, cool. After that, it may vary and be more detailed for different classes. Dev Update 2 is coming soon, they've said, so hopefully it'll be coming shortly after Update 2, and they've also finally said that different shape bags will be coming in the future, but not necessarily painting tubes like Payday 2. So we'll see what happens there. All right, now let's move on to the notes from today's stream to follow up the presentation. So first off, they note that the new maps, these legacy ones, are reimaginations and not remakes. As we've said in the PowerPoint, things have been changed to fit Payday 3. But let's talk about the influence loot value and 19 bag cap for cook-off. The 19 bag cap is to stop the economy getting screwed. That's my wording, not theirs. But basically, they don't want the economy to be too tilted by having a heist where you can get infinite bags. And honestly, I respect them for that because the economy was a little bit too screwed in Payday 2. It was too quick to have too much money and then have nothing to spend it on. So whether people like it or not, I do think they are right for that. But they do know that the level is tough on overkill. You can get 19 bags, but an endless assault will start after about 10 bags. And if you do go for the 19 bags, you'll hopefully complete the heist in about an hour. And in my opinion, you shouldn't spend longer than an hour on a heist anyway. I think that would be a bit too long. I've done it before for cook-off. It's a drag, personally, so I back it. But influence loot value is actually a new thing for cook-off. It says that when you have a batch ready and fully cooked, you can let it cook for longer and basically make the meth more pure and increase its value. But if you leave it too long, it'll get burnt and the value will drop to below what it was when it was finished. So you kind of have like a normal loot value, a higher one if you let it cook for longer, and then a minimum one if you leave it to cook for too long. Very interesting. I don't know how forgiving that's going to be, how much time you get, but we'll see when we get the actual update very soon. As I talked about already, the mask is 10 C-stacks, combat preset is 25, and the animations don't cover everything yet, more things being added later. I already explained how the recommended challenge system works, as well as the renown levels, and they talked about console lobby chat. I've mentioned that already. I don't really need to go over a lot of this, because I tried to embed it into the presentation. I'm trying to be professional here, folks. End of November for the update was reiterated several times, and as I've said, with that meaning that December kicks off on Friday, update should be next week. Loud and stealth filter is in the backlog, but not in this update. It's being able to filter between looking for loud and stealth jobs. Full patch notes will come out for this update on the same day as the patch. Fair enough. I actually quite like getting the overview ahead of time. You don't need to have every single thing. It would be nice, but I'm alright with this. New challenges and pre-planning assets will be coming for the new heist in this update, but there are no actual achievements yet. They'll hopefully come down the line. Stealing gold also will come at some point. Offline mode is still on the table, as I mentioned. The Unreal Engine 5 upgrade is still planned within year 1. They also specified that all paid heists going forward will be the new ones. Remakes will be free for Payday 3, which is the way it should be. Very glad to hear that. Shadow Raid is apparently more complex to reimagine, and that's why they didn't start with this, which sounds to me as though when they were having the conversation about what heists to bring back first, I bet you Shadow Raid was high up there. They said that if they go down that road, they also want to make sure they have more meat on the bones, and the heist obviously feels more justified within Payday 3, and they felt that was going to be harder to accomplish than with Murky Station, so they played it safe for the first Legacy stealth heist, and I respect them for that. I think personally they should do First World Bank next, but that's just me, I keep saying that. Legacy heists won't have story cinematics, as I mentioned, because they don't have cohesion to the main plots. There's no point in them existing. I disagree. I think it'd be very cool to have a little side cutscene and making it clear that it is a side cutscene, but maybe it's just not a priority for them, so fair enough. They have apparently internally confirmed who the next character is, and didn't say anything apart from that. And then finally they said that no unreadying option is available in this patch, so people wanting to unready in the lobby. Still not hearing this update, but they do want to prioritize it soon alongside controller improvements that they keep getting pushed towards them. So hopefully we'll see some of those changes coming soon. But there you go, everyone. That is everything you need to know about this update today. I'm going to get this video edited and put out as fast as possible, so I'm going to finish it here. Make sure you've enjoyed the video, you click that subscribe button, and you hit the like if you've enjoyed to show me, basically, that you've liked the video and want to see more. But yeah, make sure you subscribe to stay in touch with all future Payday 3 content. You can follow me on my Twitch at twitch.tv/RedArcherLive, where hopefully we'll be playing Payday 3's new update very, very soon. But apart from that, I'll wrap it up here. Thank you all for watching. See you all soon. Much love. Take it easy.